Hey there, boys and girls. It's Ralph Garman, and you're listening to Talking Codswallop. Good choice.
Hello, everybody. This is Ming Chen from AMC's Comic Book Man. You might know me from the Tell 'em Steve Dave podcast and the I Sell Comics podcast. Listen, I love podcasting. I love talking, but what I really love doing is talking Codswallop.
Hey, I'm Alicia Witt.
I'm Daniel Portman from Game of Thrones. I play Podrick Payne.
I'm Ellipses, and you're listening to the Talking... Okay, I'm Mark Bernard, and you're listening to the Talking Codswallop podcast.
Hey man, it's Kevin Smith, Silent Bob, whose voice you were never used to hearing in the 90s until I started opening it up, man. And that's because I'm a podcaster and you're listening to a podcast, Talking Codswallop, right here, man.
Welcome to this week's Talking Codswallop. I am Gemma. With me today, I've got a special guest, and he's a very, very interesting person who has got his own radio show. Well, not just radio show, it's a complete radio station. Is that correct?
Yeah, whole station.
Yeah, well, and that's fantastic. And I can't wait to find out a little bit more about that, but also done a lot of charity work with regards to like podcasting. And I also see on the website as well, he was a finalist on the TV program Pointless. So I'm quite looking forward to getting into that. Please welcome to the show, Al Galpin.
Hello, thanks for having me.
You're welcome. So, first of all, like, obviously just referenced, a few of the things, but how first of all did you sort of get into the side of like radio? Where did it all begin for you, basically?
Probably at school. I took an interest when I was a kid in radio. I used to be one of those people who, taped the top 40 on a cassette player. And then found a way, had a weird old cassette player that my dad gave me that had a microphone attached to it. So I started mucking about and saying things into it and things like that. So it goes back to then. And then it was just a bit of fun. And then at some point I realized, maybe I could actually do it as a job. Maybe I should try and do that. So I did like communication studies at sixth form and got into a uni that did radio as a degree. Went and did that and did hospital radio and local radio, student radio, that kind of stuff for a bit. And then, couldn't get a proper job after uni. So drifted away from it as you do with these kind of things. It was, we were told when I went around for my open day at uni, they were like, oh yeah, last year, 95% of our graduates got a job in their preferred field within 6 months of graduating. And I swear by the end of those 3 years that I was there, it was like flipped the other way and it was like 5% of people got jobs and everyone else was like, I'm working in an office, I'm working in a call centre, I'm working at a supermarket, that kind of,
Yeah.
So I got there just a couple of years too late.
Well, I think sometimes, I never personally went to university. I did college and I did MVQ and things like that, but I've never really been one for sort of further education, so I couldn't be bothered, to be honest.
Well, that's why I tried to do it in a field that I was passionate about, that I enjoyed. I would never have done something, like maths or English or. Oh no! If that's too much like hard work.
Yeah.
Whereas
definitely.
To me, mucking about audio editing is a bit of fun. So I was well up for doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. So yeah, I probably would have done a similar, or if not the same course as well. So I've got, obviously an interest in that kind of background as well myself. But yeah, I think people who do like a maths or English degree, but more maths, I think that they actually deserve a medal.
Yeah, my wife's got a degree in English and I'm like, I can't read. I don't read.
No.
Yeah, I don't read enough and understand enough to write dissertations on stuff. And no, it's not for me. I mean, I had to do a dissertation. My dissertation was about Buffy the Vampire Slayer. So.
Oh, cool. Yeah. What was that in reference to? Like, was it in reference to like audio and stuff, or?
No, because the degree I did was half media and half business. And then the media element was like half radio and half generic media stuff, like portrayal in media and all that kind of stuff. So my dissertation ended up being about representations of women in Buffy.
Okay.
Because sometimes if you go to uni, sometimes you get like, here are a list of all the courses that you can choose from. You get your main stuff, and then you can choose your minors, as you might refer to in American movies.
Yeah.
And I did not get my first, second, or third choice of one of them one year, my final year, in fact. And so I was placed in something. And once if you're placed in something, you get a little bit of time to switch it over. But I, being the lazy sod that I was, never did go to the office and say, I don't want to do that. So I did women's studies in my final year. Except I never actually went to any of the lectures because it wasn't something I was interested in at the time.
Yeah.
And I never really bothered learning about it. It was only like a week before the exam, and I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to have to learn some of this if I'm going to pass the exam, because I need to pass the exam to pass the whole degree. So one of the girls in the course I was friends with was like, come on, I'll help you. Here's the reading books, here's all the stuff to learn. And we kind of revised together for the few days before the exam. And then I walked into the exam, and the lecturer came up to me and went, you must be Alan. I was like, yes, hello, nice to meet you. And I got a passing grade by about 2 points. So I think I did okay.
Yeah, well, there you go. There's, I don't know if that's proof that you don't really need to study about women, or
yeah. Well, I think it was just a case of I crammed so much in the 2 days before the exam that it was all fresh in my memory.
Yeah.
And then it probably all disappeared again like the day after.
But no, that's really good though. Obviously well done for, getting a good grade,
Yeah.
and not doing
did all right. Yeah. Well, yeah. I scraped through, really. It was how it felt. I just brought it right in there. Didn't get a job in radio, and then ended up, working in health insurance, which I've been doing for 15 years almost.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I think, with regards to my cousins who went to university and things like that, it's, I don't think they've got the grandeur sort of jobs that they were expecting to have when they fell out of uni, kind of thing.
Oh, yeah. No, it was right around that point in time where people really started to make a shift towards media studies and things like that, when people realised that there were jobs available doing radio or TV and things like that. So I think less and less people did your traditional maths, English, geography, history type things, and started doing more of these obscure media things, which meant, of course, that the job market was flooded with those people. And also, media companies didn't necessarily need a media degree for you. They would hire journalists who had a history degree. It doesn't matter if you didn't have a journalism degree. So a bunch of guys I went to uni with got journalism degrees, and of course never used it because some like the big media companies, newspapers and things like that don't care don't want you to have a media degree. They want you to have learnt something else and proven that you can write about anything else that you're not interested in. So yeah, it was around about the time where everyone started doing it, and everyone came out and went, "Oh, we're not all going to get jobs, are we?"
Yeah, I think as well, at the moment, there's another saturated market for that kind of thing as well, which is the world of podcasting. Absolutely,
yeah, podcasting and streaming and, influencers. That's the way everyone wants to be these days.
Yeah,
so.
and if I may, those goddamn celebrities who found a microphone all of a sudden.
Goddamn celebrities. Hey, speaking of which, there is one that I will mention now before I forget. Okay. There is a podcast, Tom Kerridge, the chef, does a podcast with Chris Stark from Radio 1.
Right, okay.
About food. And I don't know how long they've been going, but one of the things they do on the podcast is they take a fussy eater and they get them to film themselves trying something new for the first time. And then they pause it just before they try and eat it, and they have to work out whether they think the person's going to like it or not.
Okay.
And then they watch the video and see the reaction and talk about it and stuff like that. So this episode that they have recorded this week, I am the fussy eater.
Oh, wow.
My wife dobbed me into the producer on Twitter and said, my husband's a fussy eater. So earlier this week, or actually end of last week, I filmed myself trying pickled beetroot for the first time, which I'd never had. Because I was always just did not like the idea. So I tried that, filmed myself trying that. And I think it was Monday or Tuesday they recorded it. I haven't heard it yet. It's coming out, I think, next week or the week after.
Okay.
So Tom Kerridge, Chris Stark, and their guest, Peter Andre, will be watching me eating beetroot.
Oh, that's fantastic.
And that's the kind of stuff that people will listen to because it's celebrities. If you and I did that now, no one would care.
No one would give a shit, would they?
Yeah.
That's absolutely true. But, fantastic news that you got to get on there as well, because that's what I was sort of going to go on to, that, instead of the sort of celebrities picking up their own microphones and, bringing out another podcast that's going to make us indie podcasters, kind of in the shadows even more, they could have just come on our podcast and boosted our numbers.
Exactly. I'm quite happy I've had a couple of podcasts over the years that have kind of petered out. One of them petered out because it was hard to get all our co-presenters together at the same time when we all started having kids. And it's like, well, if a celebrity wants to do a podcast, they can just come on and co-host with me. It's a win-win for everyone.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And you get to ask better questions in some ways as well, because you're talking from from a fan point of view in most cases.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The one thing that did get more ears on a my old podcast was when we did go on Pointless, I managed to get the name in the show. So,
what's your old? Well, actually, first of all, before we go on to that, are we allowed to have a spoiler as to whether you like the beetroot or not?
Yeah, no, I hated it.
Oh,
did not like it. Tried to actually finish the whole thing, but I had to spit it out. I just couldn't handle it.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
It's the texture. The taste wasn't actually that bad. It's just I didn't like the texture of it.
Yeah, and did you? Well, we don't really know each other, so I don't know whether I should be asking this question. But the next morning, was it a brightly coloured purple?
No, none of it went down. So,
oh, okay, that's all right then. Yeah, that is one thing you have to be careful with beetroot.
Noted.
Yeah, and I put that very delicately and politely for me. So
you did,
yeah. The Salty Tadpoles, which is our listener base, they're going to be thinking, why didn't you just say crap?
Yeah.
So going back onto your podcast, what was your podcast?
It was called the Dead Piet Society.
Okay.
We ran for a few years. We started that in 2005. Basically, it was my wife's idea because she knew I hadn't done radio stuff, having not got a job after uni. So I left uni in 2002. Not 2005, 2015 it would have been 10 years out. I met my wife 2008. And then I think she always knew that I'd wanted to do something radio-y and mentioned, well, why don't you do a podcast to make use of some of those old radio skills? And maybe you'd enjoy doing that. So yeah, that's what I did. I started looking at ideas and things to do, and we started doing the Dead Piet Society. And I dragged my wife Kitty and along to be a co-host.
Yeah,
it's just us for the first couple of episodes, and then my mate Ed came in as a regular co-host, and JP, who was mentioned on every episode for the first 3 months, and then was like, "I'll come on, rather than just mention me every time, I'll just come along." And yeah, we ran that for a while until late 2007. 2017, even again, 10 years out. I don't know what's going on with my calendar brain tonight.
It's okay.
But yeah, about 2017, JP had a little boy. We had Hunter in the beginning of 2018, and then Ed had a little boy the following year. So it all got really difficult to organise the four of us coming together to record. So it just died a death. And then randomly out of the blue, I got an email from a company called Get Vocal. I don't know if you've ever heard of them.
I'm not familiar, no.
They are a video podcasting platform.
Okay.
Whereby you would go into their system and broadcast live, and you could have people jump on and join you and ask questions, and there was a chat room and all this kind of stuff. they emailed me out of the blue and said, "Hey, we've heard the Dead Poets Society podcast. We like it. Would you be willing to come on board as one of our featured podcasts? We're doing a new lineup of comedy podcasts on a Tuesday night. We'd like you to get involved." And I was like, "Wow, that's a bit out of the blue. We haven't done a show in about 2 years, but okay, maybe I could do that." Spoke to the guys, and Ed was up for it. Gideon not so much. So we did a couple of shows, and I got some other people involved as well. Scree, mutual friend, he got involved with a couple, and a few other people did a few with us as well. And we did a series of live video podcasts for a while as well. And the whole thing was always about weird news. We'd look at the weirdest news stories from the last week and talk about them, discuss them, decide which one was our favourite. Yeah. It was just that kind of podcast. You know, there's lots of them out there doing the same sort of stuff as us. So it wasn't exactly unique.
I was going to say, to be honest, at the end of our episodes, because I'm not sure if you've had a listen, because I know that obviously...
Yeah, I am a semi-regular listener, first-time caller.
Oh, well, thank you ever so much. It's such an honour to record with a salty tadpole. Or a tadpole, if you prefer, whichever you prefer. But... but yeah, obviously at the end of our episodes, we always pick like a weird story of the week. And I gather them up quite often, you know, just if I see anything that sort of tickles me and makes me giggle, then yeah, I will use that at the end of the episode. It's
always a good thing to fall back on. There's always a good laugh in these stories.
Yeah.
And, there's so many of them out there.
Yeah, definitely. And it does, like you sort of said, it works as good filler, doesn't it? So
yeah, and I've done it on my radio show as well, which was so I was doing the radio show, which I started at the end of last year, and I was like, what am I going to actually talk about? It's like, well, I don't know, I'll just because what I did after the Dead Poets Society ended, I was like, well, I want to do something else, and I need to do it that doesn't rely on regular co-hosts being in the same place at the same time. Maybe I can work out something else. So I did something called the Bear Cave and other podcasts. Yeah. And the idea was that it would take elements of different things. So I'd take the talking about the weird news from the video podcasts that we did from the Dead Poets Society and kind of edit it down and package it into about 20 minutes and put that in the other podcast. And then I'd come up with other ideas, and I would interview other podcasters, and we'd talk about their podcast, and we'd kind of do mini versions of their podcast and then kind of mix it all together. So it would flick from one thing to the other. It was like a channel surfing thing. So in between each bit, there would be a little, change the channel, and I'd create a little fake podcast to go in between.
Oh, that's
and so
really cool
I did that for a dozen episodes or so. It didn't go for that long.
Yeah.
But it was a kind of an idea to try and keep different things alive that I'd done on other podcasts that I couldn't keep going on their own. So all I did was just take the best bits from each of them and try and stick them into one podcast. Yeah. And so then when the radio thing came along, that podcast just kind of morphed into the radio show. So it just became the Bear Cave radio show. And I took elements of that, like the weird news stories, and then just added some more musical elements, basically.
Well, that is actually a really genius idea, because obviously with the actual real podcasting, you can't, play music. Well, you can to a point.
Yeah.
But it's kind of frowned upon, isn't it? But obviously we're doing it as a radio station. You can, as long as you've got the rights to play it.
Yes. Yeah. We're all legal and above board.
Yes.
Cost us about £500 a year, I think, for the music licenses.
Yeah.
So,
but if it's a daily thing and it's a regular, or a regular thing, then you kind of get your money back in a way, don't you?
Yeah. I mean, because it's lots involved with it. So that's why I was like, I wanted to do a radio show because I saw someone else doing one. I was like, oh yeah, actually now in this modern age, there's lots of internet stations and all this kind of stuff. Maybe I could jump on one of those and do a show. And I looked at a bunch, and I was like, some of these stations are a bit crap, aren't they? I bet I could do one better than this. I was like, but how much would it cost? And I was like, looked at it and I was like, actually, I think that might be doable. And I knew other people who would be up for doing a radio show. I mean, I know Scree says yes to anything if you ask him. Yeah. So I was literally the first person who said, yes, I'll do a show on the station. And then other people got involved. I thought, that's the way to do it, is just get a bunch of us together. And then, smack my microphone. Get a bunch of us together and, just spread the costs, get other people involved and try and do it that way. So that's what we've done. The station is called The Bear.
Yeah.
And because I just carry that on through everything. People call me Owlbear, so the bear thing has just stuck with me for a while now.
Okay.
It actually came out of two friends of mine who were a couple, and they both used to call me Owlbear, whereas the girl meant it as in owl, the bear, and the guy always meant like Albert, but French. Albert.
Okay.
So they were both calling me sounding the same thing. And I think for about 2 years, they didn't realise that they both meant different things, which was really weird. But the bear part of it stuck. My wife started calling me Albert. And then, it kind of stuck from there. So now it's everywhere. So I ended up, couldn't think of a name for the station. So all my holding graphics, it all just said the bear. And in the end, I was like, I'm just going to stick with that.
Oh, well, that is really good as well, isn't it? Because I think if you've got a thing, just stick with it. It is the easiest thing to definitely carry on with. Why did they call you a bear, though? Was it because you're quite, I don't know, quite tall?
I don't know. Fairly cuddly.
Oh, well, that's good.
Like a teddy bear, not particularly grizzly. So
yeah.
I think it might have just been that. I'm not sure. I mean, there were worse things they could have called me, so I never really questioned it.
Yeah, definitely. So going back to Pointless, how did you manage to, talk? I'd like to quite get into the background of that, but also how did you manage to get the podcast name on the show as well?
Xander just asked, what do you do outside of work? So I was like, well, I do a podcast. He's like, oh, what's the podcast called? So I said, it's called the Dead Bear Society. And he looked at the camera and he repeated the name of it down the lens for me, Dead Bear Society. He said, did you get many listeners? And I said, not really. And he said the name again and went, you might get a few more now. Sure enough, the day after the show went out on TV, our listeners went from a daily of about 20 or 30 listeners a day to about 300 the following day.
Wow.
So it's that worked.
Yeah. And did they remain or?
No, not really. A few of them did, but not many.
Yeah. I mean, that's always the good part, isn't it? When you get that big hit episode that, you kind of get, oh, wow, that's so exciting.
Yeah, it's always good when you can get the name of the podcast mentioned on primetime BBC.
Yeah.
So.
But it's the keeping them part, though.
Yeah, it is actually the keeping them.
Yeah. I should actually explain what Pointless is as well, because you probably could explain it a little bit better than I am, but I'll do it in brief just for our international listeners, because I'm not sure if it airs over there, but basically it's like people on the street, for example, have been asked, name a Dolly Parton song or whatever, and then there's 20 options on the board, but you have to kind of pick one, or 20 lines on the board, but you have to kind of pick one that nobody else, the people on the street has actually said. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
For those of people who know Family Fortunes or Family Feud, it's kind of the opposite. You've got to get the lowest score instead of the highest.
Yeah.
So that's one way of explaining it. But it's like that, and there are different rounds, and there are different styles of questions. Sometimes it's a picture round, sometimes it's a anagram or whatever. So it's not just a flat out answer to the question sometimes. And you go on in pairs, and there are 4 teams of 2. And the other good thing about Pointless is as well, if you get 2 shots at it, so if you don't make it through to the final, you get to go back and do a second show.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So you always get 2 chances, but if you get to the final on your first go, that's it. You don't get to go back again.
Yeah.
And I applied to do it when I was out of a job. 2015, I think it would have been. I got made redundant. And whilst I was doing job searches online, I was also looking at other things and found that they were accepting applications for Pointless. And Kitty and I loved watching Pointless at the time. So I was like, should I apply? And I spoke to her about it. She's like, yeah, I'll do it with you if you want to do it. So I sent in the application, not thinking anything of it, forgot it for a while, then got a call and said, yeah, we'd like you to come to an audition in Bristol. So we went to Bristol one day and went into a hotel there, and there was about 7 or 8 other couples. And we did we were all around a boardroom table type thing. And we went around talking about ourselves, answering random general knowledge questions, playing like mini games of Pointless. And then they sent us all out the room. And then they invited 3 couples back in. And they made us answer some more questions about ourselves to camera and give a bit more information about ourselves. And then said, oh, we'll be in touch. And then we didn't hear anything again for a couple of months. And then one morning, I got offered a job. And 2 hours later, I got a phone call saying, yeah, we want you to come on Pointless.
Wow.
You've been shortlisted. We'll let you know when we've got a date. And sometimes you can be shortlisted and never get called up because they've just got too many people, or they've got, because they try and balance you. They don't want too many people of the same age on the show at the same time, or from the same area, or the people that are couples. You know, so you get people go on with their parents or their friends or their neighbours or whatever. So they try and keep people as a mix. They don't want 4 couples on. So sometimes it's like, oh yeah, you're on the shortlist, but we'll work out where and when you can come.
Yeah.
And then we got our date, and it's recorded up in Elstree Studios. We went up there, and they filmed the chase in the next door studio. So we saw Bradley Walsh walking around.
Yeah.
And they make you take up loads of clothes. They bring 4 or 5 outfits. And they rejected all of mine because they just didn't look good on the camera. No, checked shirt, that's going to strobe. You can't wear that. No, that colour doesn't look good. You can't wear that. And it got down to last one shirt, and they took it off to do a camera test. And okay, this one's okay. But if you do a second show, then you can't. You're going to have to borrow something out of the cupboard. We haven't got anything else. And then they would film, I think, 4 episodes in a day.
Yep.
And so we all got there at 8 o'clock in the morning. We'd stayed in a hotel the night before that they'd put us up in.
Oh, that's good.
We got there at 8 o'clock in the morning in the green room, which is basically a little outdoor sort of it's a lean-to on the edge of the studio, basically.
Yeah.
And they start filming with obviously the people, three couples from the show before who've come back, and then they picked one of the couples to go on and do that show. And after each recording, they'd need to replace 1 or maybe 2 people or couples. So we were sat there all day, and it got to coming up to the 4th show, and we're like, oh, we still haven't been picked. And then we heard that it was us. It was our go. And they said, but by the way, if you don't get through today, your second show won't be tomorrow because we're filming a celebrity special tomorrow. It'll be, and it was 3 or 4 months later.
Oh, wow.
Me and Kit were like, we don't want to come back 3 or 4 months later. Let's just get this done in one go, shall we? We're joking to each other. And that's exactly what we did. We got through to the final on our first go and stormed it, I think. But then we didn't win, unfortunately. But we do have a Pointless trophy each.
Oh, so you got a participations medal?
Yeah. If you get to the final, you get a little glass trophy.
Yeah.
So we've got one on the shelf downstairs in the front room, and there's one behind me here in the office.
Oh, awesome.
So we get one each because we've gone on each person gets one. So as a couple, we've now got 2 of them knocking around, which is great.
Yeah. And that's fantastic, isn't it? Because let's face it, I mean, obviously it would have been fantastic if you'd have won. As you can probably tell, I don't think I've seen the episode because I don't watch the program massively. So, I probably haven't seen the episode or whatever, but yeah, still the fact that, you still got a trophy and you also
we got a trophy. It was all good fun. We really enjoyed the day out.
Yeah.
I can recommend it to anyone. It's a nice environment to be in. The team there are really lovely. If you're ever nervous about doing a TV quiz show, then I don't know about any others, but that one was great fun to do. While we're all waiting in the green room, we were all playing the Pointless board game with each other. Just asking each other questions and stuff like that. And weirdly, it led to my biggest embarrassment on the show playing that game because I was remembering things from the questions that I wouldn't otherwise have known. And one of the questions that come up, I think it was actually my first question. It was about teams that had been in the Champions League during the 2016-2017 season or something like that. And we were on podium number 1, which meant we were first to go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So Kitty went first, and she said, Paris Saint-Germain, I think, or something like that. And she got a decent score, really decent score. And it went across the line and then it goes all the way down to the end and then it comes back. So I was the last person to say an answer. Whereas the couple before had said West Ham, which was wrong. So they were already out. And it didn't matter what I said. We knew we were already through to the next round.
Yeah. So
I tried to get a really good one. And I remembered a name of a team from playing in the green room called Genk. So I said Genk. And Alexander Armstrong looked at me confused and went, excuse me? So I said Genk. And it turned out to be an incorrect answer. But annoyingly, it is a real team. They just went in the Champions League that year. They were in the Europa League. But the team that was in the Champions League that year was Ghent.
Oh.
So I was one letter away from getting I don't think they were pointless. I think they would have scored me like 1 or 2. So I was really, really one letter away from getting a really good answer. I got it wrong.
Oh, no.
I meant football question and I got it wrong. One thing Kitty said, if you get a football question, you've got to get the good answer. And I'll just try and think of a correct answer that's going to be high scoring. I can do that. She said, I can do that. I can think of it. But you've got to get the good one. And then it turned out the other way around. She got a really good one. I got it wrong.
You sort of blew it.
Yeah, I buzzed it up, yeah. But fortunately, we'd already through. I don't think I would have said Genk if it was on the line and whether I had to get a good answer.
Yeah. And how did you apply to be on the show in the first place as well?
There's on the website, there's a section of the BBC website about how to be on a show, and you can literally just download application forms. And you just fill in, and it asks a question about yourself and who you'd go on there with, what you would do with the money. It asks you loads of really random questions in some instances. They're just trying to get an idea of your personality, I think. And you just fill it in and email it off to them, and that's it. And you just wait and see if anything comes of it.
Oh, okay. That's cool.
But it's the only one I've ever applied for. So.
And you were successful. So that's obviously really good. Because I really love Tipping Point. That's my favourite one.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah. And, just the fact that it just reminds you of the 2p and 10p machines, doesn't it?
Yeah. My little boy accidentally turned the TV over to that a few months ago and decided he didn't want to turn it back to the kids' TV. He was quite happy watching Tipping Point.
Oh, your kid is awesome.
He is, actually, yeah. I mean, he's only 3, but he's quite happy watching that. He actually watched Pointless, an episode of that, with his mum the other day. Because he's so into numbers.
Yeah.
He just loves numbers. So Pointless, watching the numbers go down, he was loving it. And he was, as soon as it stopped, he would call out what number it was.
That's really good.
Which is, so I thought, okay, you can watch this if you want. I'm quite happy.
Yeah. Yeah. You might have a scientist in the making there.
Maybe. He does love numbers.
Yeah.
A while ago, when we were in the last lockdown, Kitty was, because I've got asthma, she wasn't keen on me doing like the weekly food shops. She's like, no, I'll go and do the food shop. The supermarket's literally like 100 yards up the road. Mm-hmm. So I said, I'll do it. She bought one of those like granny trolleys.
Okay.
And so she would go to do the food shopping, put as much as she could in the granny trolley. And if there was more than that and she needed some bags, she would then text me and say, can you come and help carry them back? So she'd go off to the food shop and we'd get a message, and me and Hunter would walk around and help her carry the stuff back. And one day we were literally he wanted to do some colouring and then he got bored and he started asking about numbers. And there's a thing on CBeebies called Number Blocks.
Okay.
It's a little cartoon with little shapes. They're all little individual blocks, and each number has got a different little character. And he loves them. So we were doing sums. I would draw a number block and then put plus and then draw another number block. And he'd tell me what the number was, and then I would draw that number block. And we were doing this for about 20 minutes, and then getting a message went, can you come and help me? And I said, come on, I've got to go get mummy. And he just burst into tears and went, I want to do more maths.
Oh.
I was like, wow. Are we sure this kid is mine? What is he doing?
How's the milkman or the postman?
He does like the postman.
Yeah.
As the postman walks every day for a while, he was like, hello, what's your name? And eventually the postman was like, "My name is Simon." He's like, "Hello, Simon." So now he just shouts through the window when he sees him come in.
Oh, that's amazing. Well, yeah, I was going to just relate with a dog related, because I haven't got any children myself, but, dog versus postman isn't a fun experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Slightly different. Yeah.
Ours was completely at the bottom of the garden the other day, and literally 2 days ago, and
What, the postman?
the dog. Yeah. And so he rang the doorbell, and my mum, thinking that the dog's right out in the garden, might have heard it. All of a sudden, so she's opening the door saying, "Hiya," blah, 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 blah. And literally, you can hear his woof getting louder and louder and louder as he's coming. And I think the postman really did see the colour of fear, because he like the dog literally charged at him, and it's like, oh, we need to kind of get to the, we need to kind of see if we can stop this, because he really, really was scared. So it was, I felt really bad for him, because he's a really nice postman as well. Poor man. Stupid dog. So, the next thing that I wanted to talk about was your charity podcast, Superpod.
Oh, yes.
Yes. So you've obviously done, to my knowledge, it's been the last couple of years. Is that right? Or
yeah, we've done 3. We did one in 2017 was the first one we did.
Okay.
And that was great. But then because we had Hunter at the beginning of 2018, it kind of distracted me a little bit. So we didn't do one again until last year. So we've done 2017, 2020 and 2021.
Yeah.
So it's going to be annual now, which was what the plan was originally. But yeah, so we started, the first one we did, again, it all came out of someone else's podcast and seeing someone do a 24-hour podcast and thinking, that's a lot of fun.
Was that Squee by any chance?
It wasn't actually, no.
Oh,
I
okay.
found out his after. It was doing Superpod the first time where I met Squee, because I put some stuff out online about looking for local podcasters, and that's how I found him, and that's how we met. But it was someone else I knew prior to that who did a 24-hour podcast. They did a comic book podcast. And so what they did, they had a friend of theirs who was an artist, and they got him in, and they would take suggestions from people on Twitter, and each hour of the thing, he would draw one page of a comic. And at the end of the 24 hours, they had a 24-page comic, which was all written and drawn within that 24 hours. And then they gave that to everyone who donated in that period. So anyone who donated got a digital copy of the comic. So I've still got mine somewhere. Idea. Yeah, I thought it was a really cool idea. And the whole process of raising money, they raised money for Mind, the mental health charity.
Yeah. And
it was all a lot of fun, and they got lots of different people involved. And I thought, maybe I could do something like that. But I knew instantly that my co-hosts on Dead Get Such at the time would not want to do something like that. Yeah. So then it became, maybe I could just split it up and get different podcasters on every 2 or 3 hours or whatever, and make it like some kind of telethon.
Okay.
And then I realised it, and I think it was November when I came up with the idea, and I was like, it's Comic Relief in March, isn't it? Red Nose Day. Why don't we do it for that? And it's kind of like the podcast equivalent of Red Nose Day.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what we did, and we got, but we went for long. We went 36 hours, and we had, I think, 16 different podcasters, and we had people who came to Southampton from London, from Birmingham, from Bournemouth. They all came up and did the shows with us live in a hotel here, who gave us one of the boardrooms for free for the weekend. And then we had other people who dialed in from South Wales, Finland, Canada, Australia, to do some of the overnight stuff. And yeah, it was such a great experience. And we raised about just over £1,000 that weekend. And we thought that was great. And I thought, I want to do it again.
Yeah.
So yeah, we did it last year, but I tried to do it in person, like an all in person thing. It was still streamed online, but we did it at a bar in Southampton, and it was for Sport Relief. So it had a sports theme. So we had more sports podcasts and stuff like that. And the idea was that we'd be there all day, and anyone can come and go as they please during the day. And then in the evening, I tried to get some bigger acts and then try and sell some tickets to raise some more money for Sport Relief.
Yeah.
But it was literally like 2 weeks before the first lockdown, and no one came. I think everyone was a bit nervous about going out.
Yeah.
Plus, I didn't have any money for marketing the thing, so it was all word of mouth, which didn't obviously go that far.
No.
But we raised about £500 that weekend. So it wasn't as good as the first one.
I was going to say, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there. I apologise. But I was going to say that, I'm not going to steal Tesco's quote here, but literally every little helps, doesn't it? So.
Yeah. And it was a very different thing. We tried. That's when we turned it into what we call now a festival, because the first one was 36 hours non-stop, and I decided I needed to sleep in between after that. So we did 2 days. We did 12 till 11 on Saturday and Sunday. And then this year we just did 1 day because it was all from home.
Yeah.
And it was a case of, I'm working from home. My wife's working from home. Our little boy's at home. I can't then take myself away into the back bedroom all weekend. I should probably spend some time with them.
Yeah.
So we just did a Saturday, and we did like a 12-hour day on the Saturday. And that was great because we got some really good people involved in that. And it was all done online, all done video as well. And we raised, I think, about £800 this year. So I think all in all, with all the money that's come in, we've raised about £2,500 over the last few years.
See, that is absolutely amazing. I'm going to give you a little round of applause, but I'm going to try and do it a little bit quieter because I don't want the dog to bark. But yeah. So, but also, I know that you've invited us onto both of those. In fact, and we're not. I think I've invited myself, and then sort of something's happened.
Yeah, we tried to get you involved on the last one, I think, or one of them, and possibly last year, but you couldn't come or something. And
no, unfortunately, I'm so sorry about that.
No, it's cool. We put out invites to lots of people because we know a lot of people aren't going to be able to come. So we send out invites to more people than we have places.
Yeah.
As that's always the way of things. And then if everything falls through, then we've got to scramble around to find someone else.
Oh, well, I hope you didn't have to scramble too much with us. But I think it doesn't help, like if we're in there in person. I mean, I'm in Weymouth, so I'm only an hour and a half away kind of thing. So it's no big deal for me. But James lives in North Yorkshire.
So
it's kind of
a little bit further for him.
Yeah. And, if it's live and if it's...
That's why I was so impressed with the last 2 in-person ones we've done here.
Yeah.
That people have come from so far. I've been really... the first one, we had about 6 or 7 people who came from Birmingham. And then beginning of last year, Matt Lees came down from South Wales.
And I like Matt Lees.
It was a really good effort from everyone, and it was really great. Whereas this one we've just done back in March of this year, it didn't matter. I think we got better podcasts this past year because you didn't have to go anywhere. You could do it from home.
Yeah.
So we had the last podcast we had on the evening was called Comedy Arcade, which is hosted by comedian Vic Slayton.
Okay.
And basically she has a panel she puts together of comedians. She's got bingo balls with topics written on them, and she just pulls them out, and people have to read or tell anecdotes based on the topic. So it's like competitive anecdote telling between comedians.
Oh.
And she ended up with a trio of John Robertson, Josie Long, and Paul, whose surname has now completely escaped me. I've forgotten it. It's gone. I know he's the brother of another stand-up as well.
We still love you. Oh, sorry. We still love you, Paul. So,
Paul Watson, that's it. Paul Watson.
Oh, there you go. See? I took the pressure off and you knew his name.
Exactly. I think it's in there somewhere. I have this. I have bad recall. So she got a really good team together for that, which we would never in a million years have got in person at this stage of our journey. I'm hoping at some point we'll do a big in-person event and we'll get some really good podcasts along. The problem has been in the first 2 years, Comic Relief were really helpful. They'd send us clips. Last year, I did an interview with one of the people from Sport Relief and played that out as part of the event. They sent us the audio files from their, the appeal clips they put out on Red Nose Day. They sent us clips of those and said, here, you can use these. Whereas this time it started, they emailed and went, oh, are you going to be doing something? We would love to get involved. And they started that whole process, and I went through the whole thing again of signing some forms and requesting information. Can I do this, this and this? And then this time I didn't get anything back. And then like 2 weeks before we did it, they announced that the No Such Thing as a Fish guys were going to do a 24-hour podcast.
Yeah.
Which coincided with ours. It was on at the same time, or finished partway through our day, or started partway through our day. I can't remember which way around it was. But it's like, oh, great, now we can't compete with Comic Relief's own official podcast thing. So,
yeah, and definitely, like, I listen to No Such Thing as a Fish, so they're a big, big podcast, aren't they? So it's kind of like trying to compete with, being David and Goliath sort of thing.
Exactly. I mean, but when all the guests that they had on as well, they had a different guest every 24 minutes, I think, or something like that. That was the idea. They were going to try and do however many things in however many minutes, and they were going to keep changing the guests. And they got, Richard Curtis was on it, and Eddie Izzard was on it, and Stephen Fry, and all the, A-list celebs that you could get for a Comic Relief thing were all on this podcast. I was like, well, we can't possibly compete with that. No. But we did get some really good shows. Like I say, that last one did give us a real good bump in viewership. They did well bringing people across with them, because I think Robbo especially was on Twitch anyway and just did a raid and brought everyone with him. So that was great. Brought his audience along for us for a while.
Oh, that is brilliant. Yeah, fantastic. And, however much, like I said before, however much money is raised is going to an amazing cause. So you're doing a really great thing there. So
thanks. And I'm hoping we will be back again next year.
Next year.
We haven't decided when yet. Obviously, Red Nose Day or Sport Relief even will be in March at some point. Yeah. Whether we do it around that period again or whether we do it a bit later in the year, I'm toying with an idea of doing it over the May bank holiday weekend. But we shall see. But it will be on at some point in the first half of next year.
Well, in that case, then I just need to grow a pair of balls and man up a little bit, but not only metaphorically, not physically. Yeah, I do like being a woman, but because my problem is that although I'm confident, like when I'm speaking now and whatnot, I'm quite a shy person, and the idea of sort of getting up on stage in front of people.
That's why one of our events would be a great starting point, because there won't be anyone there.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point.
If history's anything to go by.
Okay, well, in that case, then book us in for next year. But it's that whole mental thing. And when once I was up there, it's like the fact that when it's live as well, because when I read, I have to kind of quite edit my reading because I'm dyslexic, so my reading isn't fantastic. Right, okay. So actually it's goddamn awful. And so the idea of reading things live is quite a scary concept, but again it's all stuff that I'm making excuses for that normally I just get on and do stuff. So we always try and just make it a fun experience anyway for whoever's involved, and we don't take ourselves too seriously, so it doesn't matter if you screw up. It doesn't matter, and all this kind of stuff. So that's the way we've always approached it. And we've not been technically the greatest, but we are there to have fun and raise money, and that's we do both. Yep. So anything else is a bonus. If you get a really great show out of it, that's a real bonus for us. So. Exactly. So yeah. So I'm going to stop being a chicken. Okay, and then also the other thing that I alluded to was Bear.Live, which is your radio station. Yeah. So would you like to tell us a little bit about that? And also, before you do, I just wanted to say a thank you again for airing our episodes every Thursday. Yes. Yeah, no, you're welcome. Yeah, every Thursday night, 10 o'clock. Yep. Talking Codswallop is on the Bear.Live on like a week delay, isn't it? So we're an episode behind each week. And we try and we've got a few different podcasts, and we arrange it differently with different people, because what we don't want to do is take listeners away from wherever they may normally listen. What we're trying to do is get new ears on the show. Yeah. And vice versa, and different ears on the station. So we do the same. So we've got a partly political broadcast with Tin and Duyeb, comedian. He's let us use his podcast on the station. He releases them on Monday. We put them out on Wednesday nights.
because you've got to try and stay, because they're political, they're topical. So we'll try and play them out on the radio before they're out of date, because things obviously move pretty fast. Some days he releases an episode and it's already out of date because the person he's talking about has just been fired or has quit, which I think happened last week. So we do that. We've just signed an agreement to do a new Southampton football-based podcast for the new football season. So there's an established Saints podcast joining us. So the station's called The Bear. It's at the Bear.Live. It is, we call it Southampton's alternative online radio. We try and be good and local, but it's not necessarily specifically local. A lot of our shows are general and can be enjoyed from wherever you are in the world. So we've got a show on Monday night called The Playlist, and Darren takes a different theme each week and does 2 hours of songs based on that theme, takes suggestions from people. I do my show on a Tuesday night and talk about all sorts of weird things. Like I say, I'm actually doing a new version of the show as of this coming week, because I had my show syndicated on about 5 different radio stations. So I never mentioned what station it was on, and it was all kind of a bit generic. But as of next week, I'm just on the Bear again. So I'm going to try and get a bit more local. I'll be telling people about what's happening in the area, what events are on, playing some local bands and that kind of stuff.
Sounds good. That's kind of very similar. Sorry, again. It's very similar to an idea that I'm working with at the moment. So, but I'm not saying anything because I'm not sure if I'm going to do it or not. But I'll tell you off mic. But there is an idea roaming around in my brain at the moment. Nice. So,
well, we're always on the lookout for people. So if anyone listening wants to do a radio show or get involved in any way, they can. So just head to the Bear.Live and read all about it and see if you want to get involved. We've got about 2 new members joined this week who are gearing up to potentially do some new shows for us, which is great. So, but we're always on the lookout for new people to get involved and do new stuff. So I also do a show on there that I started about 6 weeks ago called Secondhand Songs, which is all about cover versions.
Okay.
So every Wednesday night, it's on the Bear at 8 o'clock. 8 o'clock on Wednesday evening. It's not live. That's why I can't remember what time it is. It's a pre-recorded show, that one. And it goes out a few times during the week. But it first goes out Wednesdays at 8. And it's now all about different cover versions.
That is interesting.
Play some favourite, big favourite ones that you might have heard of and others that you maybe not have heard of and stuff like that. That is, again, that I syndicated that one. That's why I stopped syndicating my main one, is because I thought, this is the kind of show that other people might enjoy. So I found a radio group on Facebook and put it on there and said, hey, anyone who's interested in taking it on your station, let me know. And now it is, as of today, I've got another request in on 34 different radio stations in 8 countries.
Wow.
So that's doing fairly well.
Yeah, because
I'm surprised with that.
That's amazing, because that's the thing behind having a business or whatever. But obviously, I consider this as a business because it is, isn't it? It's the marketing side of things in the background, isn't it? All the hard work that you've got to put in.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm quite pleased with how that one's going. And I've also, as of the week before last, is now on Spotify as well. So through Anchor, because they're owned by Spotify, they're like a podcasting platform. My podcast used to be on Anchor for a while. And they introduced this thing last year where you could create music and talk shows through there. So you would upload your talkie bits and then just select which tracks you want from Spotify.
Okay.
And they would publish it, but they would only publish it on Spotify. And obviously, normally, if you publish it through Anchor, it will go everywhere. It'll be on iTunes, Apple Podcasts, and all the others. But if you choose music in it, it'll only push it to Spotify. And what it does through Spotify is it will play your talkie bits, and then it will actually play the track from Spotify, so that the artists still get the money. From it's like a normal play on Spotify, and then it'll cut back to my talkie bits again. So I record the episode as normal, and then I save my talkie bits separately and upload those to Spotify and choose the music. So there's a version of there that's available for Spotify Premium members that you can listen to on there.
Ooh, Ooh, that's really, really cool. Yeah, definitely. You've got plenty of fingers and plenty of pies there, haven't you?
Yeah, I keep myself busy.
Yeah.
And my wife was too happy about this starting me on this path by getting me to do the podcast, but here we are.
It's her fault.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, I was going to say that also it's yeah, and also the fact that you're managing to keep a day job going as well.
Yeah. I mean, that's the tricky bit, is that I just keep wanting to do other stuff when I should be working.
Yeah.
Because I'm sat in here now in what I call the studio. It's my office.
Yeah.
I've been adding stuff to it throughout the lockdown. I got this job. I've been a home worker for 2.5 years now. Okay. So I took this job because it was a home-based job. And previously I had like an hour and a half commute to my job. Mm-hmm. And now I just, walk from one end of the house to the other. So it's so much better. But they told me that all I'd have was a laptop and you'd be good to go. So I bought, in preparation when I got the job, a small laptop desk. And I used that for the first week. It was fine. And then they delivered me a mouse and a keyboard and a monitor. I was like, well, this monitor won't fit on this desk. What am I going to do? So I took the box that the monitor came in, turned it sideways, and it turned out to be the same height as the desk. So I just stuck it behind the desk and stood the monitor on it. And that worked for a while. And then I was like, it's too small. And then I started doing like the podcast stuff again. I was like, it's far too small. So I bought another small desk to go next to it. But they weren't quite the same height. So my keyboard just kept clacking and clicking between the two. Because it was balanced right in the middle. And then, because this was all in our guest bedroom at the time. Okay. And then our little boy got too big for his cot. And so we moved him into the guest bedroom, which meant that I've now got what was his nursery. So I bought a new desk that is full size. It fits in here perfectly. I've bought myself a second monitor. So I've basically got my laptop and 2 monitors. So when I'm working, I've got my work laptop here, my 2 monitors, and then I've got my personal laptop at the other end of the desk. So I've got 4 screens on the go all the time. And I keep wanting to look at the wrong one, Oh, let me just do a bit of editing. Oh, let me just send an email. Or let me just look up some song ideas when I should be focusing on someone's medical bills.
Yeah. Do you know what? I'm giggling away because this sounds all so familiar to me.
I bet there's millions of us like this at home at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, I never do any editing or recording of podcasts during work hours.
Well, what the good thing is you could never get away with doing this in the office.
No.
Because if you wanted to look something up when you were at the office, it would be logged on the work computer. But now I'm at home, I can use a different computer and I'll never know.
Well, I mean, I have got my works computer, so when we finish recording, I'll take a picture of my setup as well. So, and then you'll see why I'm sort of laughing, because my table is an ex-work, an ex-work table, so basically it's quite a small one. But yeah, I've managed to get a monitor on one, keyboard, and then I've got a DVD cupboard thing that kind of twizzled around. Well, normally, but it doesn't anymore because I've got my computer and the other monitor on there as well. But yeah, so this desk used to be perfect because it was just my podcasting desk, but now it's a bit chaotic, but it works.
Yeah, and I keep adding little things to it.
Yeah.
So and I've got a new, because it was Amazon Prime Day this past week, I've bought a new set of drawers to go under the desk and a new mouse mat and a few other bits. And my wife was like, you keep buying more stuff for in here. And to the point where I've got a little smart speaker in here and a smart light bulb, and smart power sockets. And, probably do some nerdy stuff with it as well.
Yeah.
So you won't get the full effect of this, but if I try this, hey Google, red alert. My light has now gone red.
Oh, okay.
And where's the other bit gone? Oh, there you go. It's a bit quiet.
Yeah, I can still hear it though. There we go.
Hey Google, stop.
Yes, please stop before all the neighbours get concerned.
So my wife was like, I showed her and she's like, what's the point in that? And I was like, it's funny. There's no point to it at all. It's just a bit of fun. And now I'm sat here in what looks like a dark room. So the lights to red.
So you could develop photos and get on with work at the same time.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic. And it's yeah, and I was also going back to your sort of radio station, which is obviously just for everybody. Again, it's the Bear.Live. Grr. Yeah, if you're a female member of this radio station, your name has to be Gemma.
Yeah, there's a few of them.
I think
there's two. We had one who dropped out before we even started.
What, another Gemma?
Yeah.
Oh.
The first other DJ I had signed up.
Yeah.
After the initial three of us who got together to launch it was a Gemma, but then she kind of disappeared, and then now you've been on there playing out these episodes, and now we've got another Gem on Saturday afternoons.
Yes.
So yeah, there's a few. There's a Jade who's just joined though, so we've now got a non-Gemma lady.
Oh, so you've ruined it.
Yeah, we can get her to change her name.
Well, I suppose Jade is like a gem in a way, isn't it? So, you know, like...
This is true.
Yeah.
This is very true. So it's okay if I go and get someone called Ruby.
Yes.
Yeah, that's fine.
Oh, I didn't start the dog.
The dog disagreed.
Yeah.
Okay, no rubies.
But no, that's fine. Yeah, the humans agree, but the dog doesn't. Oh dear, he's thrown me off now. Oh, shush. Right, anyway. Well, I mean, thank you ever so much for today and recording with me. But I was going to say, did you want to sort of give out any social details, social media and website and whatnot?
Yeah, you can find me. I'm on pretty much all the socials as Albear UK. So ALBEAR UK. I'm on Twitter and Insta. The Facebook page is called that as well. And my website is bearcavestudios.co.uk, which has got links to everything. It's got links to the radio station, Superpod, and all the radio shows are all kind of built into that one thing. I've decided that's what my fake audio company is going to be called.
Fair enough.
Everything I produce is now called the Bear Cave Studios. And I've got a big sticker of it on the wall.
I think...
Again, because I could.
Because I've, while we've been recording, I've been looking at it, and it's a really good setup website. So, you know,
it's one of the things I enjoy doing as a hobby. Is just like mucking about with WordPress and finding out all the things you can do with it. So yeah, that's how that came about. And I found some stock images, templates, logo templates that were free. Changed a few of those, and next thing I knew, I was like, oh, I seem to have built myself a portfolio website. Yeah.
No, it's really good, and I really like that background picture as well. The the mountains and the trees, and everyone will have to come over and have a look at the website to actually check it out. Yes. But yeah, and it's like the sea, not the sea, it's kind of like a lake and stuff, isn't it? But,
yeah, it's really nice. It's got the sort of place I'd like to go and hang out for a bit.
I would like to jump into that water, but I probably would get eaten by an alligator or something, because you never know what's under there, do you?
There wouldn't be an alligator in a lake in the mountains, but you never know. Well, I've seen Lake Placid.
Yeah, exactly. Or, I don't know. Something else will get me. Well, I think in that case then, we've been talking enough Codswallop this week. I have been Gemma. And you have been the amazing Al Galpin. Thank you again.
Much. Very kind. Thanks for having me. It's been great fun.
Yeah, I likewise as well. I've really enjoyed it. So thank you.
No problem.